never challenge the boss. Unless you want to end up like the rest of the blighters. A dagger in your back. Or worse. All that you have and all that you hold dear can be taken from you. I see every pathway. And all I need is a single beat to switch the blade and drive it into your heart. Anyone who challenges me is a feast for the dreads.
Introducing Uzuri Switchblade, an assassin hero with 4 intellect and 40 starting health. Once per turn as an attack reaction, banish a card from your hand face down. Turn the card banished this way face up. If it's an attack action card with cost 2 or less, put target attacking card with stealth from the active chain link on the bottom of its owner's deck. Then put the banished card onto the active chain link as the attacking card. This is Uzuri's signature ability, and it allows her to quickly adapt to combat situations, trading an attack action card with stealth for any attack action card with cost 2 or less from hand. So let's show off a couple stealth attack action cards that work well with this and top it all off with an incredibly powerful payoff. Isolate is an assassin attack action card with a cost of 0, an attack of 3, and a block of 3. It has stealth and dominate, while Backstab functions with similar evasion, having the same stats as Isolate, being an assassin attack action card with cost of 0, attack of 3, block of 3, with stealth, and the ability reading defense reactions can't be played to Backstab's chain link. Follow either of these up in conjunction with Uzuri's hero ability, shifting it into her powerful specialization, Shakedown. Shakedown is an assassin attack action card with a cost of 2, 6 attack, and 3 block. As mentioned, it is Uzuri's specialization and reads, if you've played or activated an attack reaction this chain link, Shakedown has, when this hits a hero, choose red, yellow, or blue. They reveal their hand, banish a card of the chosen color. Shakedown is a card with a nasty on-hit effect in its own right and can be compounded with reactions such as Pummel for a disgusting display of dominance. Uzuri's parents may be from Metrix and Mysteria, a fact reflected on her young hero card, but she finds her true home right here in the pits with the rest of the outsiders. How's it going, Rogues Gallery? I hope you'll stick around just a little while longer as we're going to talk about Uzuri, her supporting cards, and some really interesting rules interactions. There's some really cool and kind of tricky stuff going on here, and I talked with Legend Story Studios head judge and rules manager Joshua Scott to confirm that everything that I'm going to be talking about is true. But before we do that, I have a couple quick things that I want to say. First of all, I want to give a huge shout out to my lovely partner Robin for playing the voice of Uzuri in this video. I'm not the best voice director, so she did an incredible job for what I was dishing out. And I also want to give a huge shout out to Dead Summer Art, who actually did about half of the animations. Essentially, he did all of the non-Outsiders animations, and I personally did all of the Outsiders animations, not including Uzuri herself. And of course, I want to thank Legend Story Studios for choosing me to be the person to reveal Uzuri. It actually means an incredible amount to me. This is my first ever hero reveal, and I could not be more perfect. Uzuri is such an awesome character. I have read a bunch of lore on her. She is so awesome. Cannot wait for everyone else to read all of the lore that they have in store. Huge shout out to the LSS creative department, Robbie Wen and everyone over there. Absolutely awesome job. Outsiders is poised to be an incredible set, I'm beyond stoked for this. But without further ado, let's talk about Uzuri and some of her support, because there's some really, really cool stuff going on here. Let's do it. Before we go any further, I do want to mention that I will be posting the official images for all of these cards on my Twitter and Facebook immediately following this video, so you don't have to take the screenshots or whatever. The images will be available over on twitter.com/redzonerogue or facebook.com/redzonerogue. And as you can see here, we have a lot to talk about. We're mostly going to talk about static effects on the combat chain and what happens to them when they are no longer on the combat chain, as well as some, reaction shenanigans. But before we do so, I do want to take a nice look at these Uzuri cold foils. This one is the Young Uzuri and will be available at your local Outsiders pre-release. One of my absolute favorite events to attend are pre-releases, and I think it's awesome that they're having cards like this cold foil Young Uzuri as a possible prize. Just absolutely awesome. This card is so beautiful. I love the spot foiling on the cold foil, as well as the adult version. And I don't know how folks are going to be able to attain this adult version of Uzuri, but she's absolutely incredible. And I do want to say at this point, my overall opinion of Uzuri, this is possibly my favorite hero in the entire game. This is everything I want to do. She's so awesome. It's all about the mind games. Every single time you play a card with stealth, your opponent has to think, do they have something really, really spicy? Are they gonna threaten a nasty on-hit effect like Shakedown or even something like Death Touch? Every single card you play is a threat, and that just makes this so interesting. It's gonna be a ton of fun to pilot. I cannot wait to build Uzuri, both in Classic Constructed and in Blitz. Oh, it's gonna be so much fun sneaking in these just nasty cards and combining them with some really disgusting attack reactions. We'll talk about the attack reactions, and like I said, we'll talk about some static effects and all of that kind of good stuff. All right, so let's talk about static effects on the combat chain and what happens to them when they leave the combat chain. So we're gonna use Backstab as an example here. So Backstab is a card with stealth, and it says defense reactions can't be played to Backstab's chain link. And now, while I was initially thinking about this, I was like, I wonder if this effect sticks around since you already played it, right? Does it stay around after you Uzuri it to the bottom of your deck and cheat in something like Shakedown? My assumption was no, and that is correct. Basically, cards with static effects, once they leave the combat chain, their static effect is no longer in effect. And that's also true for stuff like Dominate. So Dominate is only in effect so long as the card with Dominate is still on the combat chain. There are some really interesting, cases with Dominate and Uzuri's hero ability because of how Dominate functions. Dominate says the defending hero can't defend with more than one card from their hand. So that brings up situations where your opponent can block with one card from their hand, and then if you use Uzuri's hero ability as an attack reaction to put Isolate on the bottom of your deck and then put something like Shakedown into play as the attacking card, your opponent can then play defense reactions, right? They can't play more cards from their hand as normal blocks because you're past that step, but they could still play defense reactions because the Dominate is no longer in effect. I actually very much like Isolate for this because it just kind of forces it so that your opponent can only block with one, like normal card from hand, and then no matter what you sneak on in, they can still react to it, but they can't commit more cards to block, which I think is really cool. And it makes cards like Shakedown, Death Touch, and any of these cards with these nasty on-hit effects just that much better. I also want to talk about reactions on the combat chain as well. So something like Razor Reflex. So say you are attacking with Backstab, right? And then you play a Razor Reflex. If you then decide later during the reaction step that you want to use Uzuri's hero ability to put this card on the bottom of your deck and then sneak in a card like Shakedown, the Razor Reflex is basically used up. It's worthless, does not affect your Shakedown because it only was affecting the Backstab. But you do have situations with cards like Shred that actually target your opponent's card and therefore would still stick around. So, for example, you're coming in with, we'll use Isolate this time. Come in with Isolate, they block with a single card from their hand, and then you shred that card. You can then later, during the reaction step, if you so desire, activate Uzuri's hero ability, and then put that Isolate on the bottom of your deck, and then have the Shakedown come in, and the Shred is still in effect because it's targeting your opponent's card, not your card, which, makes Shred very good in Uzuri. I think
Shred is already one of my favorite cards, and this just makes it that much better. I also want to talk about interactions with Shakedown and other attack reactions, right? Because obviously if you use Uzuri's hero ability, that does count as an attack reaction, thereby satisfying the conditions of Shakedown. But you have other ways to do that too. As noted in the video, you can do nasty cards like Pummel, you can do cards like Shred, but you can also do stuff like Black Tech Whispers, right? Which is just kind of like this onboard attack reaction that you might have access to at all times if you're running this card in your equipment loadout. So you could just play Shakedown normally, you know, play Shakedown, pitch a card, and then use Black Tech Whispers as an attack reaction to then satisfy this condition, because it says if you've played or activated an attack reaction. So yeah, just a nice little thing to note, that you can always turn your Shakedown on if you have something like Black Tech Whispers available. Really, really cool. I also love the other support here. So we have some of the cards that you probably have seen already as promos. We have Infect, Sedate, and Wither. These cards are also really nice for setting up these mind game kind of shenanigans, right? Where you can come in with something like, my favorite one would probably be the Infect, because it makes the Blood Rot Pox, which I very much dig the Blood Rot Pox. And your opponent has to make a decision, right? How much do they want to commit to blocking this card, right? Do they want to block it heavily because they think that you're gonna, you know, sneak on in something like a Shakedown? Or do they just like, okay, I'll just block 3 just to block it out, and then you can be like, haha, gotcha, Shakedown. It's super nasty, it's super fun. I cannot wait, absolutely cannot wait to build Uzuri both in Blitz and Classic Constructed. Thank you all for joining me for the Uzuri hero reveal. I would very much appreciate it if you liked the video, shared it around. I spent a lot of time on this, so thank you so much. I'm very curious to hear what you think about Uzuri in the comments down below. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.